Well, hello.
Well, hello.
How are
How
you?
I'm really great. Thank
Okay,
you. So
wonderful. Let me make this just a little louder. Okay, great. Well, we made it. We both made it.
we made it. Finally, I'm so excited. So great to connect with you.
Same here. Same here. Thank you so much for joining us. We're happy to have you about that.
Okay.
I would love to have you kind of introduce yourself to our audience and let them know a little bit about what you do. And I think that'd be a great little start.
Yeah, sure. So, Mona Sharma, I'm a celebrity nutritionist. I call myself a wellness educator more than anything. My life, I guess about a decade ago, looked very different. So I actually come from the beauty world. So I worked as head of education for brands like Christian Dior and Tom Ford Beauty, and everything seemed really, glorious at that time. I was working fashion shows, meeting celebrities, doing makeup, and all of those things. But it really was that typical corporate scenario where I was insanely stressed. I was unfulfilled. We were out partying and drinking and everything, and I was just really unhappy. So I burnt out completely. And around that same time, I was diagnosed with a heart condition. I ended up having two heart surgeries, ablations for heart palpitations that were just chronic. Neither of the surgeries worked. I was just before my 30s, so I was also told that I had, major PCOS, that I would have a hard time having children if I wanted to have kids, and that ultimately was my rock bottom. So I knew I needed to change. And the funny part about all this is that this was completely opposite of what my upbringing was. So my father is East Indian, my mother is Danish. My mom has always suffered from debilitating autoimmune disease, so rheumatoid arthritis. And with my father's insight around Ayurveda, an ancient Indian science to heal the body, predominantly around food and wellness and yoga and breath work and stuff like that, I grew up at an ashram. We spent our summers at ashram, so I had all of this insight to this world of healing and wellness and happiness and stress relief, but I threw it out the window completely. Maybe for a reason, though, right? So ultimately, when I ended up leaving that corporate world, I went back to my roots. I said a lot of my imbalances were due to inflammation. And when I say inflammation, I know it's a really big buzzword. It's just I was off the charts on the inflammation spectrum. I was about 40 pounds heavier. I lost that weight. I became a yoga teacher. I became a nutritionist and started working with a lot of CEOs who understood that same level of stress. And that led me working with a lot of professional athletes as well. So since then, I guess flash forward about 10 years, here I am. I work with a lot of celebrities here in LA, which is like such a blessing. But what I find most interesting about my practice is that ultimately the symptoms that I see day in and day out, they're very common, right? And something that I say all the time is that just because they're common does not mean that they're normal. So whatever your symptoms are that you're living with that you might have gotten accustomed to, address those things because in Ayurveda, we'll always say that, your body's communicating with you all the time. We just ignore the symptoms. We ignore those whispers, unfortunately, until they turn into screams. So we call this accumulation. So what are you accumulating? In the same way that I was accumulating stress and toxic foods and too much drinking and unhappiness and all of the above, I just got to a point where it was too much. And here I am today. And I have two kids now, by the way. I have a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old.
Oh,
So
wow.
I turned those results from the doctor around.
That's great. I mean, I love that. Wow, you grew up in some interesting places where you learn things that I think you'll never have an opportunity to do again, and most people will never do in their entire life.
You got it. And here's what I say. So one of the philosophies from that I work with my clients on is taking the ashram to the city. None of us can really get away to that, especially now. But the foundation of the ashram is quite simple. So, what is it? It's a pretty strict schedule. You're waking up and doing some breath work or some sort of movement. It doesn't have to be for very long. You're sitting with community. You're eating food that is whole food based, no processed packaged foods. And the idea of the ashram is that you're essentially, with that strict regime, you're shutting down all the tabs, right? All the noise, all the clutter that's happening, all the stress, all the distractions, so that you are forced to deal with yourself, we can do that day in and day out. We just have to make ourselves a priority, right? So with my clients, it's really waking up every day, making a decision about how you want to feel that day, and then taking all the steps towards making that an actual reality every day and making yourself non-negotiable, which I think we don't do. We
No,
weren't taught
no,
how to be selfish that way.
no, I don't think we do that at all. And I can tell you that as a fertility specialist, trying to treat someone as a whole human being and not just from the fertility aspect and an egg and a sperm only, and avoiding other areas, it's a huge benefit I notice for patients when we are able to get them to meditate. We're able to get them to think about what they're doing and to do it in a routine as part of their daily activities that makes them feel so much better. And the positive feedback that I've gotten from patients that I've encouraged to have a positive effect, whether it's weight loss, whether it's mindfulness, whether it's just being a little bit more self-conscious about themselves and what's around them, or addressing things that are medically needed to, whether it's by medication or naturally, I think is huge. And I think in this day and age, with all of the stresses that we have around us, we started off with a pandemic that caused a lot of us to realize, wow, life could be more simple. And then now things are picking up rapidly, and we have the pandemic and our normal lives back, and a lot of stressors that are still here. So trying to manage normal life in this time is actually very, very challenging. But I do believe, and I want to hear what you think, for fertility patients exclusively, if we could talk about that right now, being as healthy as possible, eating in a way to decrease your internal levels of inflammatory triggers can be very helpful. And what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I love that you brought that up. You said something else that was really interesting, and that was around like, you as a doctor, you need to understand the actual biology of your patients. As a nutritionist, a long time ago, I gave up the idea of trying diets, see if this works for you. Every woman that walks into your office has a very unique constitution, a very different upbringing, very different socioeconomic, emotional relationships. Like everything is just so diverse. So we can't give this cookie cutter program. And I know as somebody who's had, I miscarried twins at nine weeks. All I remember was like, just tell me what to do, and I'm going to do it. It doesn't work like that. So I think first and foremost, you have to understand your biology. So now when I work with my clients, I do a full spectrum blood lab panel so that we can see where the deficiencies are, so that we can see, what your constitution is actually telling us, some supplements that you might need, some cleansing that you might have to do. There's the biology piece. When it comes to the food piece, I think that no matter what your goal is, but specifically with fertility, focus on whole foods. You think about what you want to cultivate, right? When you think about even essentially growing a plant or growing food, you think about the soil. You have to cultivate really great quality soil. So if you're putting things into your body that aren't going to cultivate that growth, then you're going to be depleting your fertility capabilities. So what do we know now? What is science proving? Vegetables, right? Whenever you look at your plate, you want 75% of your plate to be whole vegetables. And I always say, eat the rainbow. Look for lots of colors. You're not only getting the diversity of the vitamins and minerals and nutrients from those foods, but also the soils that they were grown in. You want to have really great quality fats. So this could be nuts, seeds, avocado, good quality oils. I say take away a lot of those inflammatory seed oils that we know are making us sick, canola oils and, all the fake soybean oils and stuff like that. Definitely cutting out the sugars. We know that sugar feeds inflammation, and often it comes in processed food. And trust me, I have a sweet tooth. I love my chocolate, but remember, your body can take in those indulging foods when you're in a state of balance. When you're in a state of inflammation, you're simply feeding the fire, right? And outside of that, really, it's just removing the things in your house that could be considered not serving you. So anything that typically comes from a box, that comes from a package, is dead food, right? There's no life force, as we would say in Ayurveda. There's no life force to the food. So it's not going to give life force to your body. And when you switch your perspective, whenever you eat, food is information, right? The information is either going to fuel you or the information is going to deplete you. So I get it. We're all stressed. Some days I would rather just like open something out of a box and wolf that down. But I know that in terms of my end goal, no matter what it is, specifically with fertility, it's not going to serve that, right? So get rid of the package box foods for sure. And then I would say, really support your gut microbiome. Think of fiber. Think about diversity of fiber. So I'm obsessed with prebiotics. Prebiotic foods or high fiber foods, there's this kind of starch that is undigestible, but it goes directly to feed the good quality bacteria in your gut microbiome. Where,
Can you
they
give
say,
some examples for just
yeah.
specific examples?
So prebiotic food, things like jicama, things like leeks, things like fennel, garlic, and onions, things like green apples. And when you're eating your bananas, bananas that are slightly green, that a bit more of that starchiness to it, right? So in my mind, if I were to put together a perfect meal for you, if you're eating some animal protein, then you would have a beautiful piece of wild salmon as your protein that's loaded with good quality fat. It's great for your brain, great for baby. 75% veggies, so this could look like a mixed salad. I love roasted vegetables. Just throw a massive tray into the oven, and then it's ready in 20 minutes. And then good quality fat. So don't be afraid of those nuts or seeds. I love avocado. I'll eat, about a quarter to half an avocado per meal, and that's the satiating aspect. And once you retrain your taste buds to lose the flavors for those foods that you might have food addictions to, by that combination of micronutrients and macronutrients, your cravings tend to subside.
It's interesting when you travel outside of the United States, whether it's Mexico, whether it's Europe. I had 12 trips to China before this pandemic began. The level of just real fresh food and the emphasis on real fresh food, it doesn't even compare to what we do in this country. Like, you go down aisles and aisles of supermarket with boxes and cans of stuff that have been sitting there for months and months and months that have no fresh value to them whatsoever. I remember one year we were in Mexico and we had rented a house, and we bring this lovely lady that cooks for us breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And she said, this time don't buy a lot of stuff from the market. I'm going to bring them from my town where I live, fresh for you every day. And
Wow.
I just got to tell you, just like the simplest things that we do to complicate unhealthiness in this country is so easily doable. So we are at home very prone and very desirable of doing things as healthy as possible. I recently took my kids to a farm where we picked strawberries and lettuce, and I had never picked a cabbage head before in my life. I don't even know what it was. I'm like, that's a cabbage, that's how it grows. So it was so nice to bring those things home and try to actually use them. I tell my patients as well, you have absolutely no idea whatsoever what is involved and what is in there with those preservatives and those things on the labels that you have no idea what they are. So, keep it simple. I love the new things that you can find at like Whole Foods and Trader Joe's, a snack that has peanuts and dates, and there's no other ingredients in the bar at all. Those things I think are super important, very important, and I can't put enough emphasis on it, especially if you're trying to make your eggs healthy and your body healthy. I think these things are really, really important.
Isn't it wild that we don't know where our food comes from? I just think it's wild. My dream is to just to learn. Through the pandemic, I started growing my own tomatoes and carrots, and it's just fascinating. But you have to ask yourself where all of your food comes from. How many steps did it take before it arrived on your plate? Right? So that's a really big portion of all of this. So get creative when you go out there. If you live somewhere like this amazing California place, we have the option to go to fresh farmers markets, and in Malibu, there's farms that you can actually go to. You can take your kids, you can go and like get grounded while you're there and get really fresh produce. And I'll always say to my clients, look up one new recipe a week. So for a lot of us, we have to reacclimate our taste buds to kind of crave those foods. Like, who craves Brussels sprouts or broccoli, right? You eventually do, but you have to learn just like some different recipes and how to do it. So in your family, if this is something that's new for you, look up one new recipe a week, try to give it a go. And that way you're always adding in different options so that you're really getting diversity, because otherwise what we tend to do is we shop on autopilot. We go through that produce aisle and we get the same apples and the same peppers and the cucumber, the same lettuce. We get the same, every aisle, it's like autopilot. this means that you're getting a very limited spectrum of nutrients to your diet, right? So really go back to that diversity. Look for high vibration, high energy whole foods and take your time there. I promise you, there's a way to do it because I know that some people are probably thinking, well, it's so expensive, right? But when you think about the amount of money that you're spending on the stuff that's processed or when you're eating out, I promise you that there's a way to do it that makes it really, really easy and time efficient in your house.
And also, don't overbuy. So I realize that when we go shopping, we like to overbuy, and a lot of it goes bad, and you have to toss it. I think it's very, very wise, and unfortunately, it is sad. The organic products are double the price sometimes. I love the fact that I can go to Costco now, and from a mile away, I see the green label, which is all
You
of their
got
organic
it.
products. And yes, it's a little bit more. I'd rather buy the better product, less of it, and have it there and eat it in a healthy way. And I think it's so important. A question just popped up from a potential patient that said,
Yeah.
does eating healthy, I'm gonna just read it out loud again. Sorry, I just scrolled up again.
Yeah.
Have you seen supplements or diets positively impact egg quality in your patients? So I'm gonna answer this in a very interesting way. If you're 44 years old, 50 years old, 48 years old, I don't think there's anything you can eat that's going to make your eggs back to where they are when they're 25 years old. However, I am a firm believer that if you are 25 years old and you're moving forward, the use of healthy, good foods, which include fats, and thank you so much for saying that, your body cannot function and your fertility system is almost incapable of working well if you don't give it good fat. Fat in our body that is formed from healthy ingredients produces estrogen, which is the fuel for eggs. If you are underweight, if you are watching everything you're eating and eating low fat, which now, thank God, everyone has realized is so unhealthy for you, it's better to have the real food, the healthy food, the pure product with a little bit of healthy fat in it than just restricting yourself so much. So I think the answer to that question is that if you eat healthy and do everything the right way, I think you have a protective effect on your fertility. Unfortunately, the saddest part of this is that a lot of your fertility has to do with your genetics and is not necessarily directly linked in any way whatsoever to what you eat. And so you can do everything you want to be as healthy as you can. And yes, I think it has an overall benefit to you. However, you cannot still ignore the aging process of the female anatomy, which is really, really important.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with you on all of that. And, you know, some of the buzzwords, I guess, that tie into what you're saying is like really looking for an antioxidant rich diet, right? Antioxidants that are really going to take out free radical damage. That's what we want to get rid of as we age. That's what makes us age faster. So in terms of that, that's one big perspective. But I think on the other side of fertility, you know, you also have to address like all of the other things that you're hanging onto. Right. So funny enough, when I work with a lot of my clients for even if it's about weight loss, talking about diet really is the gateway to talk about everything else. And I think that the frustration often with trying to get pregnant is that you're so focused in on trying to get pregnant that the frustration and the anxiety and the stress, we're all living through high levels of stress right now. And like, what is it doing to us? It's making us sick. It's making us frustrated. It's making us crave more sugar, more carbs. So I would say, you know, as much as you're focusing on diet, use the word nourishment. How can you nourish yourself? How can you nourish your vessel? But look at also like your social life, your love life, your purpose, your creative life. Are you having fun? Are you connecting to your feminine? Are you doing things that are making you feel good as a woman? Do that along with the nourishment aspect and just like make that the word that you fall in love with, because when you feel nourished, your body will optimize, right? When you feel depleted, angry, stressed, anxious, or worried, your body has a tendency to get sick and age faster.
That's so true. And the anxiety that increases your cortisol levels have very, very, very negative effects on your fertility and your overall health. You said the word antioxidant, and I wanted to address this. In research that's come out in the world of fertility, the purest antioxidant in the world, which is CoQ10, the pure form called ubiquinol, has been shown when taken by women in 600 milligrams doses per day of ubiquinol to decrease the aging of the eggs. it actually decreases the aging of all the cells of the body by reducing the amount of oxidative damage moving forward. So that's really, really important. And I did see someone asking the question about CoQ10. DHEA is not something that I would just give to everyone just like that. You got to talk to your doctor specifically and see if it's right for you and what your condition is. But the CoQ10, I think, is a great preventive supplement to be taking to protect your fertility and slowing down the aging of the cells of the eggs and the rest of your body as well. So that's a really good one. Are there
Absolutely.
any other supplements
Yeah.
that you really like for patients that are in their reproductive years that you think are well balanced for their bodies that potentially could help their fertility?
Yeah, I think it depends. Again, like work with obviously you or, with your doctor to really understand what your deficiencies are. I think most people today have to be on a vitamin D. Taking a magnesium supplement before bed is highly beneficial and obviously more beneficial when you are pregnant. But you want to make sure that you're optimized in your B vitamins and your iron levels and your omega fatty acids, your iron as well, right? You want to make sure that you're not anemic when you're focusing on this. So before you go out there and you read an article about what supplements to take for fertility, understand your biology first, see what your labs say so that you know what to take, and then look for a very reputable source. Unfortunately, the supplement industry is booming and companies have gone out there and created so many garbage. Folic acid is a perfect scenario, right? Like there's so many synthetic chemical binders that are found in these folic acid brands or folate brands. And you just don't want to be taking those. So look for a very reputable brand before you start taking anything and work with your doctor to monitor it, right? Work with a team, have a care team that's really got your back so that you're supplementing with the right thing, because this is also going to enable you to have a thriving pregnancy and go through that fourth trimester feeling great, right? As opposed to feeling depleted and deprived. So there's a way to optimize the vessel, but really honor the process of honoring your constitution instead of the cookie cutter scenario.
What is the benefit of magnesium being taken at night and in general, though? I mean, I take calcium magnesium because I get like this little restless leg thing that I had, but it kind of solved it by taking it. It's calcium, magnesium, and I think it has zinc in it as well. Can you explain that?
Yeah, magnesium we're finding is a really incredible mineral that most of us as we age become deficient in. I think the study has last shown that it serves over 400 different functions in the body. So when you
Wow.
think about being deficient in magnesium, think about being deficient in four other functions in the body. And what I love about magnesium is, I talk about bowel movements all the time. You want to make sure that you're having a consistent, regular, daily bowel movement every day. Once, twice a day is optimal, right? And magnesium taken before bed has benefits to, relax the body, relax the mind, and it has the ability to kind of soothe the GI tract so that you wake up and it's kind of like your magic pill to help you go to the bathroom in the morning if you're hydrated. So magnesium glycinate is typically what I recommend. Magnesium citrate is for people who have more constipation issues, maybe a harder time going to the bathroom.
That's I do think that there is a lot of cross-related issues with bowel function and also the rest of the body that are again ignored tremendously. Processed foods and all of the stuff that we're doing that is actually harmful for the body. I think it all kind of just adds up. And again, I think it's such a major problem in our country. What I love is when you go to Europe and you go to Italy and you're eating a big bowl of pasta, which is usually not that big. It's just actually a normal big bowl of pasta, a
Yeah.
smaller size. Coming back from those trips and everyone's like, oh, but you walk a lot in Europe. That's why you don't gain weight. I've tested this. I've made sure not to walk at all. I eat everything that I wanted to while in Europe, especially in Italy and in countries like Greece, where things were full of just healthy, fresh vegetables and fish and pastas and vegetables that are just like you could just smell from across the room.
Yeah.
And no one's gaining weight. It's all healthy stuff, but it's all so natural that it's amazing.
Yeah, I think there's two sides of this. So one, yeah, the food is a whole lot less processed, right? That's less for your body to digest. That's one side of things. Now we are seeing things like celiac disease, which is a gluten intolerance, show up in Italy, right? But what's going on with that? I mean, when I dive deeper into this, I also think that when you go away and you're on vacation, you're relaxed. You're in a state of rest and digest instead of a state of fight or flight. Fight or flight is where we get sick. And I think that we are living not only through a pandemic, but we're living through a stress epidemic, right? Stress is the number one ager. Stress is depleting our health. Stress is causing a whole lot of stress and anxiety. Anxiety related disorders are on the rise. So I think that, imagine what it's like to be on vacation. Get yourself into that mind state when you're sitting on that beautiful piazza, eating that bowl of pasta. Get your mind there before you eat any meal, and your digestion will thrive. If you're eating under stress, AKA scrolling through your phone, not paying attention, eating in the car, eating on the go, your body is too consumed with what it's doing. It's not turning on all of the digestive processes that have to be turned on to break down the nutrients, to assimilate the nutrients, to properly digest your food. If you're not digesting your food, you're not assimilating the nutrients or getting energy in the way that you should be from what you're eating, right? So good point. One, let's all pray for vacation because that pasta is amazing. But two, until we can do that, let's get ourselves into some peace and some rest. So change your state before you have your meals. Turn on some music. Connect with loved ones. Turn the phones off when you're sitting with your family. It's such a priority.
That's such incredible good advice. Mona, I'd love you to let all of our audience know, how can people make appointments, or how do people talk to you and learn more and find out individually what's important? How do they do that?
Yeah, so I love Instagram. So if you head over to my page, it's at Mona Sharma. You can also go to my website, which is monasharma.com, and I've got a bunch of programs and packages there. I also have a free download there that you can also check out, where it's a list of foods to eat with a lot of the tips that I've been talking about today. And through my site, you'll also see I have a company called XICAMA. So I was so obsessed with prebiotics that I launched a beverage based on prebiotics. So it's spelled with an X, XICAMA, life.com. But you can see that through my Instagram page.
That's lovely. And for anyone who's watching, I just wanted to let everyone know that we are currently having a special for egg freezing. It's our summer special that we did to help everyone out after COVID and lots of financial issues for everyone. We wanted to kind of give back to the community. So it's, we're trying to do that, and the egg freezing package is there. We've also adjusted our IVF cycles. We're doing all of our consultations by phone and by telemedicine. And if there's anyone who has specific questions that they want answered that we didn't get to do, if they send a message with their information, meaning their phone, their email, date of birth, and also, I think that was it. We will happy to reach out to you and set up a consultation so you can go over all of your specific questions and needs. But thank you so much. I really, really enjoyed speaking. And I look forward to doing this again.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I look forward to connecting with you again in the future. So thank you so much, and hope to see you soon.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for watching.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye,
Have a
guys.
great day.
Thank you. Bye.